But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Robert Edward, Pablo de la Cruz, Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, Survive the Spin, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, JMels24, Unimento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links, as I say, to Patreon are below this video. But with that, I'll hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Hey, Craig.
Nathan.
How's it going?
Yeah, man, not bad. How about you?
Yeah, I'm alright. My wife goes back to work this week, so there's less work being done on the book. So all of last week, pretty much at this sort of time, showtime, I was doing book work, but not this week, which is slightly frustrating because we're so close to the end. You get to a point where you just like want it out, as does my wife, who's done a lot of the work. But you've got to still do things, which is just frustrating. I'm sure you can appreciate.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Len.
Yes, mate. Life is a very busy thing, isn't it?
Yeah. That's it. Still did fun things. We went to a wildlife park yesterday. We had a choice of Twycross Zoo or... Is it the Cotswolds Wildlife Centre? Is that what it was called, hun? Cotswolds Wildlife Centre was the one my eldest daughter picked, so we went there. Mainly because my youngest daughter, whose birthday it was last week, wanted to see capybaras, like a giant hamster. That's the only way I can describe it. And they were super cute, so we went there. Those are just the two places that happen to have capybaras that you could have a look at. It's great.
They're like giant guinea pigs, aren't they? Not hamsters.
Yeah,
Come on.
A guinea pig would probably be a closer simile to what they look like to me. Yeah, guinea pig. Exactly.
I'd probably just say a giant.
Len, you sound like you are in a big hall.
Alrighty then.
Hey, Vinny.
Who's Vinny? O'Neill's here.
Hey, Vinny, you see Tony?
How about Luigi? Is Mario okay?
You watch The Simpsons, don't it, no? You know Tony Tightlips?
I haven't watched The Simpsons since I was a kid. But no, Tony Tightlip is presumably the character that's taken straight from The Sopranos or Goodfellas or a whole number of the ones that have got a fat character that undoubtedly looks exactly like the actor who plays him, right? Is that what you're talking about? Fat Tony? Tony Tightlip?
Exactly right. Tightlips, Tony. Hey, Tony, what did you see? I ain't seen nothing.
We're going with Fat Tony Solano.
It's Neil. It's his accent. Just every time I hear it, I think New York mobster, innit?
Yeah, you got a bunch of Italians naming their kids Nigel now.
It's my cousin Petey. This is Pete, Peter, Mario, and Peter, and Petey. And this is little Petey.
Yeah.
This is
Peter
Luigi.
and Paul. I get them confused myself.
This is Paul and Paulie. And little Paul. This is Big Paul. This is Mario. little Petey.
You're happy with the book now, Nathan? Happy with it all?
Yeah, I mean, each time we go through it, we're making little edits. So as a consequence, I say at the end of that process, well, I still obviously want to my wife, want to go through it one more time, because you want to go through it once and go, well, we didn't make any adjustments that time. In other words,
I literally...
Go on.
Me and Dad were like, oh, well, I was laughing about it. I was like, your wife must be hating you. Every time you're going to reread this book, you're going to go, no, change it.
Well, yeah, but when you're on the ninth draft, there's only so much fundamental information that you're ever going to alter. So it's more about phraseology and punctuation, spelling. Just, I know exactly what each section needs to and does subsequently say. It's just that sometimes when you're writing things as opposed to saying them, there is a convolution that can be added to the sentence, especially when they're lengthy, and a lot of them are, because they come with a huge amount of disclaimers. So you're describing a scenario within a disclaimed paradigm that an opponent that you've relabeled has. So if I'm talking about flat earthers, in quotes, because you're going to then disclaim in the sentence that you actually would prefer these people referred to as anti-globers, and they are responding to a glober's rhetoric, but you'd prefer the glober was called an anti-flat earther, and they are describing a paradigm that's claimed to be true about a globe that needs multiple disclaimers about how it's using flat earth prerequisites. So you can imagine that anything that's getting discussed ends up rolling into a sentence that could be very lengthy. And it needs to not only make sense, that's the first and most important sentiment. Who's opened that front door? Who's opening the door? Why? Oh, she's getting her shoes. I thought she was trying to escape. Anyway, yeah, there's loads of things that can go wrong in it being written on page. Now, when you're are you off to tennis? Yeah. I think you're off for another 10 minutes. You're going now. Can you take my box that needs to go back to Virgin Media? Thanks. So there's loads that can go wrong in a sentence, and when you read through it 5, 6, 7, 8 times, you go, no, that's almost perfect. But that chapter still needs a fundamental address to this particular piece of information that doesn't seem to come off factually correct. So you're going through things, and when that happens, you want to mark it off as being one that, at the very least, needs to be gone through again with that frame of mind that you're editing it, as opposed to just checking it over, having already edited it. So, all of last week there was chapters that were like, well, I can't just say that's fine, because it's just been heavily edited. We've gone through such a large chunk of that section that you can't really just say, oh, well, that's fine, send off to the publisher then. You want to have read through it, edited it, made it as concise and correct as you possibly can, and then be going through it again without needing to make any changes to any errors. So you just hear it back and go, yeah, that sounds good. And then before you know it, you're into the next chapter being read. Well, we've never gone through the entirety of the book with that being the case. We've gone through it, and there's been 3, maybe 4 chapters that have stood out as, having had us ponder our time over them and edit them. So you're like, well, it's not ready then. It needs to be, polished to the point where I can say, I'm happy with that. And it isn't quite there yet. Not quite. But it will be by the end of this week. We've gone through all the edits and done all the changes that I feel are necessary. And now we're reading through it, and we've got to chapter 5 without making any changes. So like, oh, that's a good start. It's just we've run out of time, as is always the case in this particular household. So we're at like, I don't know, a quarter of the way in, maybe a bit less, 1/5 of the way into the book. And so far so good. We're reading through it. And if we get to the end of this read through and there's no changes or, you know, minor spelling errors or minor commas changed, then I'll be happy to send it off. And as has always been the case for probably the last month or so, at any stage I could have just sent it off. You know, you just want to refine it and refine it and refine it. Eventually you've got to kiss it goodbye and go, well, I can't make any changes. But if you were to send it off and then just start reading it casually when there's no pressure on you and go, oh God, this fundamentally doesn't make sense. It's already gone off, hasn't it? You're like, what do? Start doing revisions again? You're like, no, I'm in no hurry particularly. I am getting poorer, but other than a bit of financial pressure, and I just don't see it should be the case that I should succumb to that financial pressure just to get it rushed out. I'd rather be completely happy with it. Not that you asked that for that extensive an answer.
No, I'm listening, bro. It's fair play. I agree with you. You got to read it all the way through, start to finish, no interruptions, no, or should that read like that? Or should we say that?
Yeah, that's the perfect attitude for it, Nathan, rather than chucking it out all of a sudden in spite of someone else.
Yeah, I mean, the deadline that we'd set to get it to the stage where potentially it could just be sent off if I got run over by a bus tomorrow was exactly as I had expected. Probably a week later than I expected. So because all of the whole family were sick 1 week, where it was one of us after the next, all being very sick. So I would estimate that cost us about a week. But within a week of what my wife and I set as an arbitrary point to get it done by, we were pretty close. We said Easter. Here we are a couple of weeks later, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much ready to be sent off. We're just going through it as a read through, hopefully without any alterations needing to be made as we do that read through. So that's where it's at. I don't know, I'm quite pleased. We should get it out by the end of this week, I would imagine. I can't imagine reading through it without making any changes should take more than a couple of hours over a couple of nights. Hopefully. In the meantime, I've got mundane stuff. You know, panels up. It looks absolutely glorious by me. I'm really delighted. Now I'm back to fiddling with whether or not I want my handheld mic to be the Freddie Mercury mic or a mic with a silent switch. Can't make up my mind. So I've gone back to trying the Freddie Mercury mic for a bit. See how this feels in the hand. It's quite heavy. Good mic though. Sounds nice. In a minute I'll go back to my Neumann because I'm actually sat down now. I'm not running around and the kids are out. They've gone to presumably their tennis class or whatever my wife said she was going to do previous to that. So yeah, this is the Freddie Mercury mic which I'll be walking around with if I happen to be wandering around doing things when you guys are chit-chatting in an after show or whatever and I suddenly pipe up or hear a silence and grab my mic and go, yes, I agree. When I'm not really listening, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I agree.
I had a couple of people that were like, if the book's going to be about sex, then I won't want to share it with my friends and family. I'm like, no, it's not about sex. There's elements of the show that have been invaded by things like porn bombing, and specific examples are being used to make examples of our opponent in the debate. So I'm saying, it's only in a world where heliocentric belief is prevalent that you'd need to censor a hardworking broadcaster, YouTuber, me, for what? And this is how they do it. So you're describing people joining your stream and splicing in pornography to what is claimed to be a capture of an elevation angle or a zenith position of a sun at its solar noon, or whatever it is that we're doing when people feel the need to do these things. But they're just aspects of things that have happened on the show. And when I'm describing that, because in the press release I will put the word sex, because there is elements of sex in the story. That just can't be denied. But it doesn't mean that the people who have made those objections aren't listened to. You're like, okay, fine, I won't over-egg that pudding then. You know what I mean? But it will get a mention because it is, number one, part of life. Number two, part of the story of Flat Earth debate. And the development of housekeeping. You can't not put in things that have happened when people have seen that progression and then tried to put a halt to it. What else can I describe it as other than what it is? So yeah, But I don't want anybody who's listening to this after the fact to think, well, it's just suddenly become a salacious slutfest. It's like, no. But if you were familiar with the history of the show, you'd understand why there are elements of that. And there are elements of it in terms of the types of people that are associated with the show. Right, and me, that have had elements of sex surrounding them in scandal, so that they, the people, can be made the subject rather than the measurements of Earth. So to make that example, I need people to empathise with the characters I'm talking about, take them on a little bit of a journey with the story of each character, so that they, at least who they are, know who they are and what they might be capable of in the context of the story. What's the story? Well, about Earth being measured flat and sold to the world as being spherical. But that, in and of itself, can be tedious. There's elements that need, quite literally, sexing up. In this case, with literal examples of sex that have happened that are connected to the show. Doesn't mean the story of Flat Earth Debate is going to be about sex, or that the book is going to be riddled with sex stories. Far from it. It'll still be very much family friendly. That's to say, I wouldn't hesitate to have these stories disclosed about getting porn bombed with my very easily offended, or whatever the word is for a youth, my kids. And in the presence of my kids, I talk about these stories, because why wouldn't I? You know, it's not like it's suddenly X-rated because I'm talking about getting porn bombed. Yeah, it's occupying me at the moment. For every waking moment, I'm just thinking about getting it out and getting it finished. So if I seem a little distracted, that's why. That, and on the other hand, I won't have a great deal to talk about until the book's actually released, because then obviously I can promote it, I can potentially read little sections of it, I can talk about all the various different concepts in each of the different chapters, I can promote it. Whereas now I'm in this like limbo zone where it's not quite done yet, but so close. It's most of people's questioning is surrounding that particular book, and the detractors in the comments section also seem to be hyper fixated on it. A lot of them with wishful thinking, saying that it's never going to come out. And you're like, well, it would feel that way if you weren't actually working on it every waking moment. Also, my panels have got a little tiny chunk out of one of them, which is a little bit annoying. So one of the boxes had damage, and it's right in somewhere relatively visible in the middle of the side of a panel. There's a little chunk taken out that's a couple of millimetres. Most people would probably go, oh, who cares? But you're like, well, just spent several £100s on them, and I want them to be right. So I've emailed them going, there's a bit of damage. And they asked for photos, which I've dutifully sent. Hopefully they'll just replace it with another one. Bit of a pain in the arse, as it's 4 foot by 2 foot. But I've kept the boxes.
When you buy something new, you want it to be in good nick.
Yeah, I mean, others that I've had along the journey have got damage on them that have come in the exact same way. They've got damaged in shipping, but they've negotiated me to keep them, and I've just stuck them in places where the damage is noticeable, like in some corner somewhere, because the whole room's got these panels. But in this particular instance, they're right behind me. Now, I'm sure that won't show on camera. The resolution's not high enough. But I see it every time I walk out of the room, and your eye happens to be drawn to it because you know it's there. So from that perspective, I'm like, in this instance, I won't be saying, yeah, just give me a credit note and I'll buy something else, because there's nothing else I want to buy. I'll inevitably just end up collecting them, putting them on eBay. That's them, not me. And I'll end up getting hopefully a replacement that's just undamaged. But for now, I'm just delighted that they're actually installed behind me, because it looks great. And I can go back to using this particular microphone. So, as much as it is quite useful to walk around with a handheld microphone, I like having my most expensive microphone being used, which is this one, Neumann. And the Neumann is just visible in shot. A really nice sounding microphone that's miles away from me. It's several feet away, so I can, use my hands and be expressive on camera. But when it was pointing at an empty back wall, all I could hear in the recordings that I did do while I'd taken the panels and moved them into the corner in preparation for the new ones, I could just hear a little bit of slap echo. Now, nobody else is going to give a crap. No one's probably ever going to notice, especially when it's 10 times less than any other YouTuber out there. But for me, it's just all I could hear. It just drove me nuts. You're like, oh God, I can hear myself echoing. So then back to using, I don't know, whatever, my Electro Voice ones that I use on podcasts and radio shows, so that you've got lots of flexibility to have more than one guest in the room. Well, I've been using those just to avoid the fact that I don't want slap echo from behind me. But then I tested this on the show on Friday, and it seemed absolutely perfect. It sounds absolutely ace on my as it should, right? It's a Neumann, but it's like any mic, completely at the mercy of the room it's in, or the environment, I should say, because it's a shotgun mic. They'll often be used outside. So yeah, the environment that it's in directly dictates how good you can get the mic to be. So this room now being fully treated sounds wicked. You know, I sound ace, as much as I'm not suggesting that's just because I sound beautiful. I do. I know I do. But the mic doesn't necessarily always pick that up. All right, 15 minutes. I'll get a coffee on the go. I'll keep the recording going. Hopefully you guys will chat amongst yourselves while I grab my coffee. Because if not, I'll have to pause the recording so there's not too much dead air.
How's it going, Neil? Were you watching any football over the weekend?
Yeah, I watched them all. Very good. Very entertaining.
I was working till late last night, so I didn't end up seeing the Sunderland game. Did you catch that one?
It didn't catch. That's the only one I didn't catch. For some reason, it wasn't coming on. Like, I could get all of them, but for some reason, I didn't get that game. I got the Liverpool game. At the same time, Nottingham was playing, which I was hoping they would freaking lose. We all know why. One of the scumbags likes that team. And yeah, the big one was freaking Arsenal against Man City, which I almost predicted that game.
Sunderland game was pretty high scoring, 4-3, I think that ended. And they got the winning goal in the last minute. It was back and forward all the way through.
Yeah, so did Liverpool. Liverpool got that freaking game winner right at the end. Corner kick. I don't know, there's still some things I don't understand about it, but it doesn't stop me from enjoying it. What's crazy is they got like this like they're doing it from Tampa, Florida, right? And there's like thousands of people out there. Games are going on in England, and they're out there at freaking 6 o'clock in the morning in Florida. Thousands of people. Like, wow, maybe soccer will get more popular in the States than what it is. We'll see.
What was happening in Florida? Were they like showing the games on a big screen somewhere or something?
Yeah, I guess there was like a watch party going on, and like in college football, they have what's called college game day, and like they'll go to different colleges and do the show, the pre-show from there, and thousands of people show up. So they're like doing the same thing with the Premier League, and like thousands of people show up. I mean, they're promoting it well. I listened back to the show from Friday. You know, sometimes you got to tell people how you really feel, Nathan. You just can't say, I'm not your mom or I'm not your dad. When somebody asks you how you feel about it, you got a problem with it? You had no problem ripping Anthony Riley apart. It's a perfect opportunity. He actually, you should have just told him straight up. Well, how would you freaking feel? Talking about chocolate. He asked you straight up, and you freaking just didn't give him an answer. Just said, I'm not your dad or I'm not your mom, whatever the hell you said. What shit is that?
Well, I'm not. I can't make moral decisions for people like Chocolate saying, if morally he's good with hanging around with people who thieve from me, that's his business, isn't it? But
That's
me,
not what he asked. He asked you how you felt about it. If you had a problem with it.
I mean, the same as anybody else, Neil, I judge a person by their actions. And if you're acutely aware of what's happened to somebody that you're associated with, and then you decide to go and associate with the people who've done that to somebody you know, then that speaks enough for me to know how to behave around that particular person. But, you know, ultimately speaking, there's certain individuals that will just be used, I told you this the other day, to triangulate with me so that I can be played off those people. And I'm not interested in doing it. You say I go off on Anthony Riley. Nah. Anthony Riley's got a discussion point in the debate. What's that? The horizon's not formed with the ground? It's the point the ground appears to meet the sky. That's stupid. I'll call him stupid. I'll ham it right up. You stupid fat idiot. Has something gone wrong with your brain? Has it been calcified? Too much chicken? What's going on? You don't realise that the very definition of what the horizon is utilises the ground? Yeah, I'll go off on him. I can ham that right up. But when it's about how I've been personally stolen from, you just get the ability for somebody who's triangulating with you to go back and say, hey, he said this. So I've got nothing to say to any of these people. Now, if you choose to associate with people who've stolen, then that's up to you. You know what I mean? But it does speak volumes for the person that's doing it. I'm not going to pretend that. I'd just rather not verbalise it. Now, you're forcing me to. I say, oh, you can't just say I'm not your mum. That's my way of saying I'm not going to give you a moral compass like your mother does.
I see what you're saying. Fine.
Yeah. If it was more physical, maybe people could relate easier. Hey, nice car. Cool. Yeah, I've been working on it for 10 years. You know, I could make that car run better. You could? Yeah. Well, what are you intending to do with the car? Sell it so I can feed my kids. Really? Well, I can help you soup that car right up so it sells really well. Oh, thanks. I can't, do anything for you. I mean, it's just being done so I can feed my family. No, I insist. I will help you make this car a better car. Okay, then. Wonderful. Excellent. Okay. What's that? You've stolen the cars, gone through my filing cabinets and decided to suggest that nobody around you steals from you. I see. And then what's this? My friend Chocolate's telling them what a lovely paint job it's got. That's interesting. that's the way I view it. So the stolen car's got a lovely new paint job. What's that? It's got your Super Saiyan logo on it, Chocolate. How lovely for you.
There you go. See? Wonderful.
Yes, lots of ammunition for them to use against me personally. I'm so delighted we have this conversation. But, as my everyman, Neil, if you're interested, other people out there are interested. Worth the sacrifice, I suppose.
You can't get around the fact that these are personal things. When you hang around people for a certain amount of years, things get personal. And was it shocking to me? You're fucking right. It was shocking to me that he popped up over there. Same with Anthony Riley, laughing it up like nothing's happened. You can't close your eyes and act like nothing's happened just because, well, I look at it like family. No, it's not like family. There's nothing in this scenario that suggests this is like a family dispute. I just want that fucking clear.
Yeah, fair enough. But the quicker you move on, the better. That's my attitude that I apply to myself. Obviously, you can do whatever you like. But it's like, okay. It's not about the car, right? If you imagine that in that scenario, the thieves are the people that have come to you as friends, you're like, yeah, but that means that they've spent time with you as friends. And that's the aspect of life that I'm trying to explain in yesterday or Friday's show, the last show that'll have been aired. That's what it's about, right? How much you enjoy the moment. So you can say, well, if I now express my bitterness at that which wasn't to be, then this moment becomes bitter. Well, fuck that. I've got better things to do. Now, what those thieves ultimately did was sacrifice their ability to be around me, which, like most selfish people, I'm not talking about from a narcissistic point of view, just from a self-defense point of view, you've got to be selfish, right? Okay, well, you no longer get to take part in the joy, yeah? The joy that it is to be around me, because I'm so delightful. Well,
We're not talking about them right now, though. Forget about them. They're dead.
Right.
But people keep resurrecting them. If you're going to sit on this panel, you got to make a decision. I'm sorry. I can't sit here and laugh it up with somebody if they're going to go over there and laugh it up with them like nothing's happened. I can't believe I got to explain this shit 20 freaking times for people to comprehend what I'm talking about. You just don't do that.
Sure. But the people that do that, Neil, it's Chase Hughes is sometimes very smart. And he's trying to explain that certain recruits were appealing to him, saying, you need to discipline this guy because he's a liar. And he's like, well, of course he is. What do you mean? Of course he is. Oh, well, that's what he does. He's a liar. You know what I mean? Why would I discipline him? That's what he is. The man is a liar. It's like you can't change liars and thieves and cheats. That's what they are. Now, you can only be as good as the person that you want to be in the company of if you're going to be viewed in the company of those scumbags. Now, those sorts of things come back to bite you all the time. Those sorts of associations. Now, if you haven't seen the snake for being a snake and immediately tried to cut its head off and run away from it, you okay, so you just carried on facilitating the snake? Okay, but those people eventually have it come and bite them back, metaphorically speaking. You're seeing it at the moment with Epstein, right? I see all these famous people from when I used to watch TV in the 80s and 90s. And when I'm watching my shorts videos about these particular people, Fergie was the most recent. That's Sarah Ferguson, wherever she used to be, Duchess of York, I think. Famous royal, suddenly having to run away and hide because she doesn't want to be getting questioned by the FBI or someone who wants to know about stuff that Epstein did. You're like, no, of course you don't, right? But you're associating with somebody back in the day, laughing it up with them, as you put it, doesn't seem like it's a problem, right? Especially if you're being love-bombed by the people, bestowed with how wonderful you are, involved with the theft. Look, I put your name on this car. We signed the paint job as being a chocolate saying paint job. Don't you like it? You're like, okay. You can either go, yeah, it feels really good, actually. Got my name on this car that's going to roll down the road. Yeah, isn't that ace? Okay, well, if that was enough for you, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? If that's sufficient for you, the individual.
Yeah, that was my point. I told him that. I would told him, wipe your ass with that. Get my name off of that. Why would you even do something like that?
You're not listening. When I say Chase Hughes suggested, why would he go and discipline the guy? The guy's a liar, right? Now, it can only speak to the people that you're associating with, but it also speaks to you. That's my point. But then if you go, well, you should have done... No. Don't impart your moral code on someone else. They can do whatever they like. But you are free to judge them. And I judge people regularly. You know what I mean, Neil? But then if you do, and you judge that you don't want to associate, which is all you can do. You can say, well, you don't get to associate with me anymore. That's it. That's all you can do. What's that? You're going to enter your stolen car into a car show? I mean, go ahead. I mean, there's going to be a few people that come up to you and make you feel very uncomfortable, and they go, I know where this car came from. I know the VIN number. You know what I mean? Or there's going to be other people who went, I produced the suspension for this car that you're saying you produced all of. You're a liar. I know you're a liar. And I'm going to look you in the eye and call at you in front of all these people. What are you going to do about it? You are a liar. And that will be very uncomfortable when it happens. And it will happen frequently. The difference is, right, is whether or not you're an honest person. Can you actually hold your head up and go, yeah, I'm not that guy, I'm not a thief. Right? When I describe what happens in my life, that's just me describing what happens in my life. If that's so precious to somebody who's witnessed it that they want to take ownership of certain aspects of what I've done, that's sad. That's pathetic. It's narcissistic. It's just a mask. That's all it is. Right? They leech off those who they want to be influenced by so they can project their energy instead of their own failures of energies. That's what narcissists do. Now me, I'm not going to ever have somebody walk up to me at a car show when I'm displaying a car and go, you say you made that suspension? Yeah, I did. Yeah, with these hands. Yeah? You're not going to turn around to me and go, no, I know where you nicked it from. That's never going to happen to me. But it'll happen to the car thieves of this world. That's what happens. People go up to them and go, I can make you feel this big, right? Because I know the truth. I know that suspension wasn't made by you. You did not make it. Did you? And they'll look at you with that wry smile that says, God, I dare you to lie. That's what'll happen to him. And it's embarrassing when it happens, isn't it, Neil? It makes you feel tiny when you've got some snot-nosed adenoidal dweeb that's got one over on you. No, you didn't make the suspension, you lying shit. And I'm going to laugh at you. Yeah? Now, some people out there, they're the Royal McCoy. That's me. Yeah? Other people want to pretend to be me. That's flattering.
So you're saying they love bombed him with that little chocolate saying part in the book. I see. I didn't look at it like that.
You can look at it in two ways. If you're thieving stuff, it's nice to separate out your theft amongst lots of co-conspirators. It was all of them, officer. It's not me. See all these names? Them. They did it. So you dilute your guilt. But in order to do so, you've got to get the co-conspirators to agree with you in your theft of the car. The paint's named after me, you say. Yeah, it is. Though you feel special? Yeah. But there's a good chance that, like Sarah Ferguson with the whole Epstein thing, eventually someone comes up to you and looks you in the eye and you don't know what to do. You can go and cower, you can run, you can hide from your deceit and your thievery. You can do that. Run, hide. But the person that's looking in the eye and going, I know what you are. You're a thief. Pretending to be something you're not. Stolen valor is a sad, sad affair.
How are you?
Good afternoon, everyone.
I'm very well. Very pleased. Tested my, I don't want to say tested, it's acoustic treatment, but tested out the visual appearance of my new panels that are now behind me installed, although with a tiny little imperfection that might lead me to getting one of them changed, and checking out whether or not my alternative mic works nicely. Going over to this, which is the Freddie Mercury mic, or Shure 565 SD. It's just got a slightly noisier switch than the other ones I typically use. Book's coming along nicely. Very pleased with how the progress on that's doing. So yeah, I don't know, things are pretty good. How are you? Try that again.
Very good. Sun shining. Nice day.
Yeah, it's
Everything
lovely.
is roses.
Indiana's got its second winter coming up today. Low at
Is that right?
32 degrees. It'll be up to 90 probably next week.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear it. It's absolutely lovely here and has been for the last couple of days. Minor bit of rain maybe on Saturday, but yesterday we went out to a wildlife park and looked at capybaras along with elephants, and I don't know what else we saw. Giraffes, rhinos, lions, you know, the usual stuff that you get in a zoo. But out and about roaming, we got there, we was immediately seeing camels right next to the car park as you walked out into this Cotswold Wildlife Centre, I think it was called. And it was absolutely lovely. It was really nice. Main event was the capybaras that my youngest daughter, who turned 7 about a week ago, wanted to see, which was the main reason we went there. So other than Sunday, we've been working non-stop on the book, and yesterday was absolutely outstanding weather to do so. Shout out to Cotswold Safari Park, or whatever they call themselves. Wildlife Centre, I think they call themselves.
Is it really a wildlife center if you're not seeing the wildlife? Like, to me, my idea of wildlife would be watching a lion track down an antelope, because that's what happens.
I mean, maybe. I mean, these were in captivity, obviously, for us to be looking at them. So from that point of view, are they the wildlife that's in captivity out in the wild? No, they're in captivity, so we can all gawk at them and point camera phones at the lions and go, wow, doesn't it look awesome? Things like that. I would go into justifying the animals' captivity, that is to say, oh no, they were all orphaned and would have been caught by poachers if it wasn't for this wildlife sanctuary. But I was too busy riding on the electric train that they had there. It was awesome also. So I'm not going to justify it at all.
No, I'm just saying, I would like somebody, one of these zillionaires, to come up with a realistic wildlife park where you could go and watch a cheetah like track down a freaking whatever they hunt. I don't know, because they're smaller cats.
Yeah,
But wouldn't that
they
be
did do
something
that.
to witness live?
Well, they did do that. They had a giant dome with all of the things that you'd need to make someone believe that there was an entire village in there. But they just thought it was so expensive that it was better off using it on some dude. So this dude called Truman ended up having his life broadcast to the world for 24 hours a day. It was really interesting. They made a movie about it.
I think they actually do have something like that, if not in Indiana, close by here in the Midwest. And I don't know that you'd like it.
It's
to
called...
watch it live.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about that place they call Mars. Is that what you're talking about?
Mars, Indiana. That's somewhere in Denmark.
I think that's in
there's a place
Greenland.
you can-
It's Greenland.
Yeah, in Greenland, yeah.
Well, I mean, it is.
No,
I mean, in the most literal sense, you've got photographs from Greenland that show NASA rovers, aka RC cars with cameras on the top of them, roaming around areas that look identical to what is also suggested to be the surface of a light. That's soil in the sky. The little light that they say is Mars is also claimed to be a huge area of soil with resources that could potentially be mined, that used to be covered in water but dried up because it isn't in the Goldilocks zone, in a heliocentric model that's mathematically derived from measuring Earth as a flat plane and having its own flat plane measurements of surface level, eye level, sea level, altitude, violated to create this Copernican orbital motion to set in stone at a radial value that will give them a distance when Huygens extrapolates out an orbital distance for these places to have Goldilocks inhabitable zones by pure fiat, by pure assumption, just by begging the question that the sphericity measured in a flat R value with a flat angle can actually translate mathematically into a Polaris system that gives them an orbital motion. So they can suggest that this light in the sky is actually soil. Boiled down in the most concise way I possibly can, they sell you the idea that the sky, that's the gases that sometimes coalesce to form clouds when they change into rain. Those areas, that's the sky, are actually where we get the soil. Like, that's what the lights are, the soil. Vast amounts of it, apparently, on lights that are determined to be at a set distance by a guess by Huygens after deriving a flat plane measurement into sphericity. That's what they think. The sky is soil. That's what they're selling you. Meanwhile, they do actually have the exact same photography, in quotes, suggested to come from Greenland, where they also openly admit that they test the rover's capabilities on the soil in Greenland. Okay, well, there you go. Just the way they say it. I mean, you can believe whatever you like. It's garbage, nonsense, but there we go. soil in the sky.
In my 25 years of professional gardening, I have never found any soil in the sky. It's always beneath my feet.
Ain't that something, though? They tell you it's up in the air. And we could get to some of these places. They're on their way. I don't know what you're talking about, but there's just been a rocket launch, and they've been sending pictures back from the Artemis, too. I don't know how you're denying these.
I'm not. I couldn't give a crap about Artemis. But my wife, who's a bit more normie than I am, was pointing out that lots of other normies question it based on its lack of consistency with modern technology. So it's one thing to argue about why they would use a camera that's, I don't know, 10 years out of date to point back at the blue marble like they did in the 70s, or are alleged to when they went round the moon then. Like, okay, so we end up with people like Math Powerland giving us photo or painting as a conception of this photorealistic artwork of a claimed to be picture from outer space that violates the second law of thermodynamics. The gas we're breathing at high pressure isn't going into that area, but the rocket can to take a picture. Your average, I don't know what the generation is, but sort of millennials and below are saying, well, if we've got the technology to just film stuff on an iPhone with huge amounts of data, why wouldn't they just have one slap to the side of the window and film the entire journey? It's because they need to have it be adhering to the 90-10 rule, which is 90% truth and 10% bullshit. Well, if you've got a whole live stream of going into a sky vacuum that doesn't exist, like traversing the wardrobe, well, we're going to traverse the wardrobe into Narnia live, and we're going to have the camera phone show exactly what would happen when you went to the back of the wardrobe. And it'll all be unedited, and it's like, well, no. What they need to do is just show you them popping out the other side and then some guy with goat feet standing under a lamp that you never have to fill with gas. That's what you actually need. You know, the transition into an area that doesn't exist can happen from the ground so you can see the rocket go up. Then you've got 90% of the story being based on stuff that you can see with your own eyes, like bringing them back. Well, you can have them come back and splash down because people can physically see it occurring. But it's the in-between bit where they only get, one shot of the blue marble sent back? Or a handful of images that you can then scrutinise. Like, then they can argue about a tiny amount of lies, but the overall populace is like, well, if I was doing that, you're telling me I wouldn't have my... People take trips to Florida and film the entire journey out of the plane window, yet the NASA astronauts, it didn't even cross their mind. You're like, bullshit. Of course it did, and everybody else's. I don't need to faff or fuss about journeys through a sky vacuum where rockets can go but gas that's expanding at a high velocity doesn't. I don't care. But the normies do. The normies are very concerned about this stupid stuff. Yeah, I heard Sourman Dan uses me as a scapegoat so the normies can see how much ridicule they'll get if they question this shit. Not that I've watched Sourman Dan's video. I was told about it by one of my viewers. I'm not particularly interested in Dan's position on my total indifference to the subject. Who cares? I, personally, that's me, Nathan Oakley, it seems to be used as a scapegoat to make the general public know you don't want to be questioning this stuff, you'll be a stupid flat earther, right? That's my position, my lot in life, so to speak, and I couldn't give a crap. I don't care. I know there is no sky vacuum. I know they didn't go around the moon. I know the pictures that they're sending back are bullshit. Yeah, I knew that for 10 years, yeah? Anti-globism isn't something I know I want to engage in anymore. I don't care. You can have it. Okay, you think they got a picture of your ball from the sky vacuum? Okay, you can have it. I don't care. What's that? He doesn't understand. What, the flat earther? No, he doesn't care, right? Yeah, your anti-globe shite is boring. Very, very boring. Just reminds me of what the people who engage in it actually are like. They're people like Simon Dan, overgrown 12-year-olds who are interested in rockets, yeah? He-Man and Star Wars and shit that 12-year-olds are interested in. That's what they are, yeah? Overgrown 12-year-olds who are interested in rockets and sky vacuums that violate the second law of thermodynamics. Well, me, I'm not interested. Couldn't care less. When it came up on my shorts feed, I'm like, it's got to be a flat earth. There it is. There's the flat earth proof. They're measuring the altitude from sea level. So why would I care? I don't. The normies care because they see it for what it is, complete bullshit. In a day and age when you can film constantly, yeah? You can have some Karen who's threatening your car be filmed and go on TikTok, yet we haven't got an entire feed non-stop. Yeah, of course, that makes total sense to anybody who's looking at it. And that ain't me. I couldn't give a crap about this stuff. It's just recycling the same old garbage they fed to people when we were anti-globers. No, we're not. Well, I don't care. Earth's measured flat. What about their altitude? What about their trajectory? How are you going to calculate that unless you've got a Cartesian system? You don't, you can't, you won't ever. It wasn't ever before. What's that? You haven't got any telemetry data from the last time you went? Well, of course not. It would show you unequivocally that Earth's being measured flat for the so-called journey into an area that doesn't exist. That's what a trajectory is. So having a trajectory ends the discussion. So why would I argue about going into an orbital motion that I concisely summarised at the top end of this show as being a derivative by Christian Huygens after a flat Earth measurement to get an R value? I don't care. Have it. Have your flat Earth measurement that builds your ball, that makes you think that Christian Huygens can just guess that Venus is the same size as a flat Earth measurement for an R value, superimpose onto a light in the sky called Venus that's suddenly Earth's twin then. It's the same size. Why? So you can scale the distances and have a distance to go around the moon with? Well, that's a bullshit story that doesn't stand scrutiny and violates the base principle of the Earth that's measured flat to create it. You, on the opposing side of anti-flat Earthism, that's anti-globism, might tell the person that their sky vacuum doesn't exist in line with 5-year-old rhetoric from us. Or you can say every aspect of every detail of their claim for a ball is built on a foundation of flat Earth measurements. If you understand that, you understand how stupid it is to argue with ball believers. Have it. It means that you've simultaneously got to accept that Earth's measured flat to give you a radial value, to give you orbital motion, to give you a sky vacuum with an altitude, to say that space starts at sea level. Every aspect of every element of a story that has people going out to a second law of thermodynamics violating sky vacuum requires Earth measured flat for it. So who gives a crap? Let the normies worry about whether or not they've got 24 hours of footage on phones. When you know that they've got to measure Earth flat to produce the system to lie about there being a sky vacuum, you stop caring about it. It's just like, oh, it's just some stupid story, like He-Man or Star Wars. That's all it is. I've said this on the last couple of shows, but while we've been writing the book, it's been acutely obvious to me that the stuff that I find intensely boring is the stuff that our opponents, that's to say, if I was to step into the shoes of an anti-glober and start talking about this stuff with sincerity, like I care about their claims that there is a sky vacuum, that's to say, engage in anti-globe rhetoric, there's a fair chance that the people who hear me engaging in said anti-globe rhetoric, this is anti-flat earthers, who label me a flat earther when I'm describing about how their globe fails, how it violates laws of nature and is ultimately based on flat earth measurements, those people would suggest that I should have my kids taken away from me. That is how serious these overgrown 12-year-olds behave in the face of someone pointing out how nonsense-riddled their rhetoric that they believe in is. They think they can retaliate by saying this person needs his kids taken away. Me, while I'm writing about it, I'm going, my God, this is boring. This is going to send people who read my book to sleep. So I need to acknowledge, that's nod to, the person reading it and go, I understand this is boring. Huygens assuming Venus has the same radial value as Earth, as it's boring. But you fart-sniffing, overgrown 12-year-olds think it's the most important thing in the world, and you'd see that people like me get censored out of existence, their kids taken away. I'm sure if you could have me jailed or even killed, you'd quite happily give the nod when you think that you're Batman, right? That's what you idiots will do. That's our opponents on the anti-flat earth side, labelling incorrectly me a flat earther when I, as an anti-glober, tell the world how failure-ridden the notion of travelling around a moon in an orbital motion that's derived from flat Earth measurements is. That's all it is. Me expressing the anti-globe rhetoric and its annihilation based on its own foundational defiance when you're taking flat Earth measurements to create a bull belief with. Orbital motion's no exception. Sky vacuum and its altitude's no exception. Everything about this whole story is garbage. Like I say, I'm not interested in debunking it. I'll leave that to the normies who go, why didn't they got iPhone footage? So that anti-flat earthers can say, oh, well, they've got other jobs to do. Really? Why don't you just get one dedicated guy to hold the phone up to the window? Is the argument that I haven't got any interest in having. Leave it to the normies to question it, so they can argue about how it is actually a globe and you just don't understand. Me, I do understand how flat Earth must be measured to create this rhetoric. Oh, and what do you know? We've got the equatorial plane on screen when I transition back to the panel and the Discord server. What's this? A Cartesian system with a glorified protractor wrapped around an equatorial plane that we must measure Earth flat for the angles to all stars? Yeah, that's correct. Earth's measured flat. Your ball's based on it. Now, at the moment, I'm having to write extra little bits into my book where I disclaim how a redundant argument that says that if you want to believe in a globe, that's the redundant bit, you must first measure Earth flat. Now, the fact that we do measure Earth flat supersedes me telling you that in the rock of acceptance when it comes to flat Earth measurements, you can then use them to create a globe with. No, that's heliocentrism. Ipso facto based on flat Earth foundations and measurements of Earth's surface as a level plane. Sea level would be the most obvious example. It's measured. It's an average of flat Earth measurements that we use to describe the differentials in the surface topology. There's no curve. We've measured it. It's flat. So you don't need to worry your precious little head about it when you tell me how globe-shaped it is. I don't care anymore. It's inconsequential. The normies can be told how they don't understand. Me, I understand how your stupid faith requires Earth be measured flat, making every argument we ever had completely and utterly void, redundant, useless, surplus to requirements. It was measured flat anyway. The entire religion that they're telling me is ball-shaped depends on it being measured flat, formerly known as the rock and hard place argument. Either sink to your knees in acceptance of how flat Earth must be measured to derive radial values from surface level angle measurements to mountains, or sticks and shadows giving you angles off a flat plane to the sun. Maybe you'd like to deny the elevation angles used to form a latitude system. Maybe you'd like to deny the longitude system and its utilisation of angle measurements to the sun. Deny it all! Couldn't give a crap! That's how it's done. Earth's measured flat.
What do you mean, redundant? You're going to make a lot of enemies like that.
If I accept that I can measure sticks and shadows in the ground off a flat Earth to create a radial value flat, to derive sphericity from said radial value, so then if I ignore everything I've just said, we can automatically assume, that's beg the question, of Earth having the sphericity the flat Earth measurements afforded it. That's a violation of the base measurement in the first instance, by the way. I'd have to ignore that too. Then we can argue about how flat Earth wouldn't work based on the transformation of the flat Earth measurements into sphericity. We could do that, but that would be, to quote me 30 seconds ago, redundant. You've got half a dozen different flat Earth prerequisites that the foundations of globe belief are built on. Now, I'm not going to ignore them. And if you, my so-called previous opponents, want to say, nah, it's okay to measure Earth flat to build a ball, it's easier that way. End quote, Dave McKeegan. Or, yeah, of course we measure Earth flat. It doesn't mean it is, Simon Dan. You can do that. It's just you're engaged in quite clear and obvious verbalised cognitive dissonance. Now, again, if you're watching that and you go, yeah, that makes total sense. It's okay to, quote, measure Earth flat because it isn't. It's a really big ball. You can believe that that shit makes sense. You can do that. It's delusional, it's idiotic, and I'm not going to engage in such stupidity. To build a ball to tell me how flat Earth won't work when your foundations are flat. That seems silly. Any arguments about how ball-shaped the world could be, and then showing how ball-shaped it isn't, just revolve, no pun intended, around ball-shaped thinking. And that ball-shaped thinking isn't required when you know that formulating a ball-shaped world to believe in requires unequivocally you measure Earth's surface level. You utilise sea level. You measure your altitude with respect to sea level and its flat Earth prerequisite measurements in an average. You ignore that eye level is parallel with surface level. You can do that. I grant you my permission. But it doesn't change that every single thing I've just detailed is Earth being measured flat, in all circumstances, by everyone, including bull believers, without any exceptions. Everyone measures Earth flat, even for dumb bull faith.
So when you're talking measured flat, you're pretty much knocking everything out of the box, and it all becomes redundant because to start with, you're measuring Earth flat.
Yes.
Makes it pretty simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes it simple beyond the comprehension of those who would ignore the presupposition, those who would beg the question and ignore all flat Earth prerequisites. That's okay. I mean, I can take, in my new book that's about to come out in the next week or so, the person's cognition through the path of their ball faith with all flat measurements being disclaimed along the way. That makes it quite difficult to write because I'm explaining how a former faith that I had in the ball can be opposed when labelled as a flat earther. That's anti-globism. And then the anti-globism that I engage in can be decried by those who would relinquish the fundamental principles of ball faith to tell me, a labelled flat earther, that I'm wrong. That's anti-flat earthism. I could do all of those things, but why would I? I don't care if people want to deny how flat Earth must be measured. And if you want to say, yeah, it's okay for me and my faith in a ball to measure Earth flat for convenience, because it's really big. You can do that too. It'll get me rolling my eyes and laughing at you if it ever comes up in discussion. It's like, I'm not even going to enter into the notion that I should be suggesting that you offer me measurements for your faith when I know where your faith comes from. Flat Earth measurements. Why would I suggest an inconsequential YouTuber or two have the answers when it comes to the derivation of the actual surface level measurements of Earth that produce their faith? I don't care. You're YouTubers. You don't have a say in what Earth gets measured as. The heliocentric priests of 500 years ago did, and they chose to use flat Earth measurements to base the belief that you now hold on. Now, I know that. Doesn't make me a frickin' historian, it just means I can do a bit of primary source research, in this case the mathematics of Earth's sphericity, and come to the simple fact and conclusion that Earth's got to be measured flat for that. Now, you don't have to like that. You can apologise for how flat it is necessary to be measuring Earth for your ball faith to exist, and then deny it for its flatness. Just because we measure Earth flat to create a ball doesn't mean that Earth is flat. It just means that we must measure it as a flat surface to create the ball, to say that the ball we created from the flat measurements is the reality of ball-shaped Earth that violates the measurements we took to create it. That's reasonable, if you like. It's not. It's stupid. But I've done this for long enough to be able to break down the cognition of those who think by default that they're on a ball when they haven't done any primary source research for where their ball came from. I have. It was from flat Earth measurements. I'll just spoiler. Yeah, you don't need to read to the end. It was all based on flat Earth measurements the whole time. And still is. We still use Cartesian grids for GPS global. Nah, it's flat. It's using coordinates. You don't know what coordinates are? Maybe you'd like to show me a few and ask me how they work on a flat Earth. Yeah? Like other dumbass bull believers who take flat Earth measurements and ask us how they'd work on a flat Earth. Yeah? People who fail to do primary source research. That's all this is. Go and have a look where your ball came from. You'll quickly find Earth's measured flat for it. Or just buy a compass. Have a look at what a compass is and then point south.
Well, according to the map guy that had a dialogue with One Deck, that's not the way a compass works.
Like I say, you can have it. If you want to delude yourself that the way a compass, a tool that gives you two-dimensional directionality when levelled, isn't, and maybe appeal to the magnetic field lines being somewhat claimed to be proof of Earth's sphericity. No, the claim that you would use to suggest that the field lines somehow infer sphericity means you have some sphericity to infer by measurement. No, those are all flat. Did I not just cover this? We didn't derive radial values from measuring spheres. We derived them by measuring angles off a flat plane. Those are just facts. Like the cardinal directionality that you'll get when you use a system that's deriving its two-dimensional directionality from magnetic field lines. You still have to level a compass. Directions are just flat, whether you like it or not.
Nathan, compasses are just locally flat. If you had a really, really big one, it would curve.
Yeah, I agree. Next man can come along and go, yeah, it's just easier to use this two-dimensional directionality system because locally, two-dimensional, that's flat, directionality, exactly as a compass functions, is okay on something that isn't flat. Okay. I'm Nathan Oakley. It's my pleasure. It's on me. You can have it. What's that? Flat measurements from a flat level tool in a flat two-dimensional system that derives directionality isn't flat. Okay. You're all idiots. You're poisoning humanity. Yeah? When you breed that stupidity into another generation, you're just making the world dumber. That's all you're doing. Facts.
But we're being people are claiming that we're poisoning society.
Yeah, I'm not poisoning anything.
Well, when the world says you live on a globe and they're constantly showing pictures of this globe on every TV show, every news broadcast, every church logo with this slowly spinning Earth, and you're coming along and saying, well, it's not that, it's measured flat. They're saying that we are poisoning society and we're dumbing it down.
Yeah, of course. Propagandists will do that. I mean, it's one of those things that at a base level, most of the general public, at some level, know that the news lies to them. Yeah? But when it comes to something that they've been indoctrinated with from a very early age, like heliocentric sphericity to Earth's surface that's measured flat, when the news tells them about that, well, that's true. I mean, they wouldn't propagandize me with that. That's most people's attitude. That's called cognitive dissonance. Yes, I know the man on the stand lied about everything, but there's something that he said that affirmed my religious belief in being on a ball. Therefore, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to accept that particular bit. You know, that's okay to accept. Like what, from the proven liars that you know lie to you. Yeah? Okay. Good for you. Me, I don't accept anything that somebody who's lost all credibility says anymore. Like the news that are used directly to propagandize you. They even tell you, I don't know what it is about this mystical way of dealing out mistruth and letting you know that they have intentionally misled you. Like they'll teach you in school what propaganda is, so that you're acutely aware that they are lying to you. It's just slightly misappropriated language. Not lies, propaganda, right? Misinformation. Why not just call it what it is? They're just lying to you. But you don't see it that way because it's come through the lips of a newsreader who's reading off a teleprompter and doesn't really know what they're saying. Right, they're just coming from Reuters to begin with anyway, and they do their research. I'm sure most of it's true, 90%. But with the 10% that ultimately gives them this rap of being dishonest, kicks in with something that they're definitely attuned to, that's heliocentrism, then they couldn't possibly lie. Yeah, they could. They could completely lie about travelling out through a second law of thermodynamics violating space, that the gas that expands in all directions, like when you fart and it spreads out in your room, that's what all the gas would do if there was a sky vacuum. It would all piss off and never return. What's that? The rockets can go? Really? Why? Oh, they need to escape the force of gravity? Yeah, like they teach the 12-year-old boys in high school about the force. It's not a force. There is no gravitational attraction. There's a bent pseudo-geometry that was invented by a man named Einstein currently. And even then, that's 111 years superseding the force that you think that they need to have an escape velocity for? Really? So the gas is moving at high velocity. They can't traverse into the sky vacuum, but your rockets can, to get you little snapshots of the ball Earth from a sky vacuum. Really? What about all the gas that sits around the edge of that blue marble in a black area that's 10 to the minus 17 torr? No problem. Really? Now I'm thinking that it's just a lie for overgrown 12-year-olds. But what's that? The news wouldn't lie about it. NASA spend millions. These people own money. You think that some consequence is how much they need to spend on lying to you. They're not lying to you. They're lying to everybody.
Nathan,
Bullshit.
Nathan, right now in schools all over the world, they are teaching that we are the third planet from the sun in this solar system that we live in.
Yeah, that's
At
derived
this very
from...
moment.
Yeah, it's derived from a Roman Catholic religion and out-of-the-box thinking to give better notions of movements of lights, specifically epicycles, and moving them into elliptical motion, trying to explain retrograde motion. Heliocentric mathematics, about 500 years of it that we've had, is an out-of-the-box thinking that takes a system that's derived from flat Earth measurements and angles to stars and turns it on its head. It's what you might call out-of-the-box thinking mathematically. But it, in principle, violates the measurements used to create it. You can't measure angles off a flat surface level and then suggest that the surface level's bending. Oh, but it's okay, because we can operate from within the ball on an equatorial plane. That's how your system works. On an equatorial plane that's been derived from angle measurements to the stars, that's extended out for 1 day a year. That's vernal equinox, as labelled. When the two systems, Sun and Polaris-based, coincide, so that you can extend a huge plane out to what is essentially a glorified protractor. Now, normally, this particular view is with Earth as a sphere, teeny little, tiny little Earth right in the middle, so you don't notice that the angle for this latitude measurement comes from in a ball. How many of you crackpot globe believers believe that you're standing inside a ball to measure an angle to a light in the sky we call Polaris? I mean, you guys think that those lights are soil, because they've told you that, right? They've got pictures of a little remote control car driving around in Greenland, and they've told you that's one of the lights in the sky. That's what they've done. They just lied to you. Meanwhile, the entire system is fundamentally reliant on being able to measure an angle from a plane in the middle of a globe that's a glorified protractor. You're not measuring from hell. Nobody's at the core of Earth measuring angles to Polaris, but that's how the system works. On a plane. Now, if that plane's being described with respect to a sun-centric system, you're still on a plane. Orbital motion bifurcates a sphere Earth. It runs through the plane of Earth when it's a glorified protractor. You're using the plane with an axis to derive a flat system, to derive an orbital motion from a measurement of Earth's surface that's flat, to derive radius and superimpose it onto Venus to scale everything. That's where you get your distance. So you can say you know how far the moon is to travel around it to take little pictures. Not full live streams from iPhones. No. A couple of little pictures from a place that doesn't exist, that's been mathematically derived by the church 500 years ago. That's what they've done. This bullshit is, just like I said earlier, specifically made cognitively expensive so that the 12-year-old overgrown boys, low-value beta cucks and gamma cuck males, can think that this valuable information, it's not, is actually worth something. Yeah, when they say, I'll have your kids off you, why? Because I've got it wrong when I've talked about how the R value was derived from surface level measurements of sticks and shadows and angle. It was. You don't like how flat it is. Oh, well, it's just more convenient to measure Earth flat for angles, to derive Earth's sphericity in a radial form from a flat derivation of a surface level measurement. Let's just ignore all the flat measurements, because we extrapolated that out when great men like Huygens superimposed that value measured off a flat plane onto Venus. There's obviously soil in the sky. Oh, what's that? It's just a gas, also not dispersing. Maybe it's like the sun, that you've decided arbitrarily is a gas not expanding into a vacuum. You can believe all this shit if you want to. I don't care. I know how Earth's measured to create that shit that you want to believe in and ignore all the flat measurements that created it, though. So who cares? This is utterly inconsequential, Neil.
Not to the world, it isn't.
When you say it's not consequential to the world, no, in the most literal terms, whether or not we've been and taken a few snapshots from a sky vacuum that doesn't exist, from an altitude measured from sea level, doesn't alter how the world functionally is operational for anybody. Nobody's going to have any consequences to this stuff. There's nothing that any of the Artemis mission provided that will change anybody's lives at all. It will either affirm your own already in existence bias towards the church's mathematics, that's heliocentrism, the world moving around the sun, or it won't do anything. So that's it. It just does one thing. Affirm your sphere belief. And that's it. There's nothing else practical that it's useful for. At all.
For those who just believe, can we really call them liars if they just have a faith in a story they've been told?
Well, if you suggest for 1 second that that story is confirmed by your belief, then yeah, if you genuinely and sincerely believe that something that you haven't confirmed and you cannot know is actually, in their words, proven, then yeah, you're a liar. That which is proven is that which is demonstrated. Is it quod erat demonstratum, QED? That which can be demonstrated. If you haven't demonstrated and you say it's true, yeah, I'm going to call you a liar. No, you haven't demonstrated it. No, you haven't proven it. No, the sky is not a vacuum. No, men did not traverse the high-pressure gas we're all breathing to enter an area that's black around a blue marble picture that all the gas would be escaping into. It's a law of nature. Saying that it's true makes you a liar because you haven't demonstrated it.
Well, they have, but when they do, it doesn't work the way they say it works. The gas fills the space. Right? We have like a 1950s video where the guy's showing you how gas fills the available volume.
Yeah, but the available volume, when it comes to the second law of thermodynamics being demonstrated in universities, you get a guy with a bulb that's got a vacuum and he's got bromine in the other. He opens a valve and instantaneously the bromine fills the vacuum. The gas fills the space. What space? The space that's created when we measure Earth flat, derive a radial value, and then use out of date, 500 years of it, heliocentric imposition that's been created by the church. So the area that's been created after we violate the base principles of an Earth that's measured flat to derive a system that's got a space. Yeah, well, we needed to violate the base principle of the measurement that we took in the first place. Who cares about the violation of the second law of thermodynamics when you know that the only reason you can create that area, akin to Narnia, is by measuring Earth flat to create it? The only reason we've got a space to argue about is because we've measured Earth flat to create an out-of-the-box system of mathematics called heliocentrism. But for the flat Earth measurements that create heliocentrism, we wouldn't have a space, an area of volume claimed to be 10 to the minus 17 torr, when you derive heliocentric sphericity from flat Earth measurements. So we need the flat Earth measurements to create a space to argue about then. All roads lead to a flat Earth. It doesn't matter if you take it to the violation of the second law of thermodynamics that is claimed to be above your head in the form of a sky vacuum that gas isn't filling. You'll always find that before you get to the point where you can argue about a sphere-shaped world in an empty vacuum, 10 to the minus 17 torr, you needed to create that world. Narnia doesn't just exist in the mind's eye of those who talk about it. You have to create it on the page first as a fantasy land. You have to describe it in terms of what it is. Now, if you're going to cross-reference somewhere that is suggested to be the very place you inhabit, then you need to have measurements you can back-engineer into reality. Well, what measurements did they take? Measurements of surface level, sea level, parallel eye level, altitude, all of which required Earth be measured flat to create a space to argue about. So yeah, we could argue about how the space created with flat Earth measurements violates the second law of thermodynamics, but the base principle of the measurements used to create that Narnia land prove it's measured flat, so who cares? I'm not making any claims about what the sky is. If you want to believe that there's an area out there that's vast and a vacuum, because you've derived the flat Earth measurements we measure the surface level with to create a world like Narnia, then you're entitled to. Everyone's entitled to their belief. You can have it. You want to believe there's rockets going into that area from the church's maths? Feel free. It's on me. You can have it.
My son showed me very clear pictures of the ISS. Quite a few, come to think of it. And it matches what they've built. So, I mean, what can you do with that?
Well, you can take it to the same place. Their story includes orbital motion for the ISS around a sphere-shaped world. What, one that's made with flat Earth measurements? Yes. They say, oh, no, I don't want to talk about the flat Earth measurements that are used to create a sphere to superimpose its value onto Venus so I can scale elliptical motion and suggest the world is in a giant vacuum. I just want to talk about that light in the sky. Okay, there's a light in the sky. It's got a funny shape to it. Yeah, but they've also got this set in a pool where they have men filming and practicing what they'll do on that light. No, the light's claimed to be in a sky vacuum, isn't it? Yeah. Well, the sky vacuum was created with flat Earth measurements. So we're definitely not in a heliocentric world. The space has been invented and scaled by men just having a little guess that a flat Earth radial value measurement can be made into a sphere, put in an orbital motion around the sun, and scaled by saying, yeah, Venus is the same spherical R value we measured flat. Yeah, you've got to take quite a few flat Earth prerequisites into account before you violate the very surface level you measured to suggest that there's an area at a scalable size that Huygens just plucked out of his arse. No, I'm not going to do any of those things. Yeah? When you say you've got pictures from the area of Narnia, well, how did we get Narnia? Oh, we just wrote about it. Well, where did the ideas come from? Well, we measured Earth flat to come up with the ideas. But that means that we've definitely got a wardrobe we can traverse. Let's just ignore all the flat measurements that we use to create the wardrobe. Let's start our story in Narnia. How do you explain all... And I'm not going to explain any pictures of lions today. You can have them.
What? Hold on. No. He's looking through his binoculars. He even showed me.
Yeah. And the light in the
sky.
The light in the sky that we do see, like Venus. I'm not denying that there's Venus. I'm not denying there's a light we call the ISS. But their version of the story of events for Venus is that it's scaled with the same properties of the flat Earth measurements that created an R value for a sphere Earth. The orbital motion that they derive from these scales, that's Kepler and Huygens, are then also imposed on that light that we do see. They labelled it the ISS and then juxtaposed it with a stage show underwater. The light exists. That doesn't mean that there's men on the light. Like Venus or Mars exists. It doesn't mean that there's a RC car like the one in Greenland on a light in the sky. No, there's RC cars in Greenland. Those can definitely be shown to be true. There's definitely men underwater in a pool on what they have built and called the same thing they call the light in the sky. But when they say the light in the sky is in an orbital motion in a sky vacuum, no, your orbital motion in a sky vacuum that you say the light we do see is, not only violates the second law of thermodynamics, its imposition comes into effect after you measure Earth flat and violate the surface level you measured, with out-of-the-box 500-year-old church thinking. That's where the space they say that light is. Now, in reality, like Mars, like the rovers in Greenland, you can show that they've got a pool with an ISS in it. That's not a light in the sky, though, is it? It's a model in a pool they say is the light in the sky. Meanwhile, they've got sets, very easily shown to be sets, with fake ceilings and CGI, where they have men on trapeze, float around with little harnesses, pretending to be Superman. That's what we have. Now, I'm not going to pretend for 1 second we don't have the lights in the sky. We do. We've measured them all from a flat plane and then superimposed those flat Earth measurements onto a baseline violating system that was thought out of the box by the church 500 years ago.
Yeah, but what about I'll give you something from chat. What's the argument against shadows on the moon from the Earth being spherical?
I don't know what the moon is. How do I know that they're shadows, for a start? Meanwhile, the moon itself is used in the same derivation of flat Earth measurements for its orbital motion. That's it. What do you want? Do you want me to just ignore how flat Earth gets measured to suggest that light we call the moon has a motion of orbit? Now, the orbit is derived from flat Earth prerequisites. So everything you ask me about a superimposition of an Earth shadow on the moon requires we derive it from flat Earth measurements to create a system called orbits. So we're not going to whistle past how flat Earth must be for you to be asking me these questions about shadows. Sorry, we're going to say that we've been there and checked that this light in the sky has got shadows on it? Oh, well, they look a bit like shadows. I don't care. That doesn't mean anything. What we do have from the globe side is their use of flat measurements to come up with these stories to impose the view that we've got shadows on a moon that's utilizing orbital motion that's measured flat in the first instance. People want to work past the flat Earth measurements and go straight to the aspect of the story that they feel they can lean into the best. Okay. What are we going to do? Just ignore the flat measurements that got you here? No, we're not going to do that. When we do that, we haven't got a curved surface to put in orbital motion. So why would I start explaining how Earth as a sphere can create shadows? No. Earth as a sphere creating shadows is a violation of the base principle measurements, the Cartesian grids, the latitude and longitude system, the coordinates for the ground positions, the flat maps, the distance scales, the surveys, the elevation profiles, the eye level, the surface level, the sea level. You violate all of it. So I couldn't give a crap what you think the moon is. It's just your pie in the sky ideas. And I'm not interested. We measure Earth flat to come up with the ideas that you're leaning into. You, the guy in chat or girl in chat, haven't created these ideas. You're just trying to affirm your bias by believing you've got a gotcha question that simultaneously ignores every fact of flat Earth measurement requirement for your belief to exist to ask me this question about shadows on the moon.
Well, I think Ranty was in the chat. I told him he's free to join. Stig, I don't know. He pops in every now and then with his little snide remarks, but he won't join. Nathan, wasn't he part of the show at one time? He knows how to get in and out of here, doesn't he not? I mean, it's a little button you hit and you could join.
Got a little sketch, a little sketch that's based on Ranty's observations of a clock. So you have two dudes and they're standing and they're looking out and they can see an island, and the one guy says to the other, you know what, that clock out in the distance, I can almost read the time off that clock. And the other guy goes, why, some sort of stupid flat earther. It's not a clock. It's a slightly looming, non-standard refraction, holographic projection of a clock from behind the physical, flat earth-derived, geometric, physical sphere edge horizon. Therefore, it's not a clock, it's a mirage, you stupid flat earther. And the flat earther, in name only, responds, I just see a clock.
Well, because that's all he sees is the clock.
Not a clock. It's a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind the Earth curve that we derived from flat Earth measurements. Stupid flat earther.
Wow.
If we can just argue about how far away it is in a horizontal linear distance measurement taken from flat Earth surface level, with the undulations of the topology reference to sea level, that's elevation profile. So long as we can draw out a line linear, flat, straight, between point A and point B, we can then argue about how that flat Earth fundamental requirement in the measurement of distance translates to a distance to a geometric sphere edge. I mean, we would need to measure our height off sea level in order to derive the distance to the geometric horizon as being 1.22 times the square root of the observer's measured height off the flat Earth surface level. But if we can ignore the flat Earth surface level and ignore the flat Earth distance measurement that we'll get from maps with flat scales using linear distance, then we can argue about how hologrammatic that clock is. That's what we can do.
Jeff Gasshead, he's a guy that's always in chat, says, I wonder what a shadow on the moon at 240,000 miles away looks like.
Right, the distance. I mean, are people just not listening? Where'd you get your distance, you stupid clown? Right, listen, I'll speak slower. To get your distance, you need to derive a radial value. Once you've derived a flat Earth horizontal measurement of surface level and an angle to a light in the sky, doesn't matter which, you can use Polaris, you can derive it by the Al-Biruni method, you can use Eratosthenes, whatever. Use whichever flat Earth measurement you like to derive a flat circle of equal altitude. And then maybe a grid, maybe ever decreasing circles of equal altitude based on the minimum of Polaris, that's the equator. You can then concertina those circles of equal altitude out around a ball and then put said ball in orbital motion. And then you haven't got any distance. You need to scale it somehow. So maybe you could just use, I don't know, an ingenious assumption like Huygens did when he said Earth and Venus have the same radial value. So you can scale Kepler's orbital motion by using the transit of Venus when you know Venus's size. Well, it's the same size as the flat Earth measurement of radius that I'm going to say Venus has. It's Earth's twin. Then you can give me a distance to any of the lights based on this extrapolation from flat Earth measurements. So it's back to, if I entertain this bozo in chat, I could put him in the rock and hard place scenario. Either you accept flat Earth measurements to derive your radial value, to superimpose it onto Venus and apply it to Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion. You can do that, but you're gonna have to accept the flat Earth measurements that got you there, making every bit thereafter redundant. Do you think you can just whistle past every flat Earth prerequisite used to give you that distance? You're just a state-educated moron. Not done your primary source research. Where did you get your distance, dum-dum? From flat Earth measurements. At which point, why am I even having this discussion with you? You're lazy. You haven't done the primary source research to figure out where these measurements were acquired from in the first instance. You're just barking the end result built on other men's work that use flat Earth measurements at me, a YouTuber. Go dig up Kepler telling me he's wrong when he measured Earth flat for his planes that he's got his orbits working with. Now, I didn't make these systems, but you want to bark stuff about distances that are derived from flat Earth measurements at me, like I have some consequence to this. You don't have any consequence. I don't have any consequence. It was, is, and always will be measured flat, even to infer sphericity, and in this case, heliocentric R-value derived distances.
Let me clear something up. Jeff was answering somebody in chat. So, but it still stands. Once you come up with distance, where are you getting that from?
Measuring Earth flat. Distance
Well,
itself
that's
is linear.
the whole point.
Oh, we're coming up on the hour already. Fun has been had by all. Smash the super chat if you want to support this channel. Hit me up on PayPal if you want to support the ongoing work towards publishing All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth. Working title, actual title, Measured Flat by Nathan Oakley, which should be out hopefully in the next week or so. also join me on Patreon. Links below this video. A fair few people in the
you're
Discord
saying
server.
that-
How you all doing in Discord? Does anybody want to add anything? And they've just felt like I've been waffling too much to add something.
Yeah, it's good to see you back. I was gonna say the one point you made was actually true. So if they come out and say, Trump lied, most people will say, yeah, he lied. But if you talk about the flat Earth, for some reason, it's like taboo, right?
Oh, they wouldn't lie about that. I mean, the news wouldn't lie about that. They'd lie about everything else but that. In fact, that's the only thing they ever say that's true.
Hello, it's taught in schools. When are you going to wake up?
Nothing to wake up to. We were all taught in geography how flat Earth gets measured. We were all taught about topographical changes in elevation from sea level. We were all taught about distance in a linear fashion on maps. We were taught these things, just not in the science class that they told you Earth's a sphere in. Good morning from flat Florida. Can't wait to get the book. I set up my chat correctly. Oh, I haven't. Let's see if I can just get this on screen. There we go.
Oh, that's Goldie.
Shout out to Goldie. Oh, what's going on here? Looks like I've done something wrong. That isn't what I intended.
Nathan, you say, yeah,
There we
we
go.
were taught it in geography class, but you also taught when you stand around a globe in a very young grade, maybe kindergarten probably now, you stand the kids around a globe and tell them you live here. And then as the grades go on, you learn that you live in a solar system and you are the third planet from the sun. These things are taught daily in schools all over the world, not just in America.
And
They're not taught as a lie.
of course not. What I'm saying is you're taught how Earth gets measured in geography class, and then you're taught the religion of heliocentrism in the science class.
Yeah, I kind of see that because I remember very young, I went to a Catholic school and they taught us about the creation story. And then in the next class, they would teach us about evolution. So I was like, wait a second. If we're created in the image of God, then what is God? Cro-Magnon man? I was very confused at a young age.
Sounds it. With that, I am going to round out and say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
Me? Freaking retard, man. It's like I feel like changing my whole email address and shit.
Yeah, someone commented about that. They were like, why don't you just delete this person that's messaging you? Just block them.
Yeah, I would have to change my email and everything. Anyway, that's beside the point. I seen Mighty Mush had given congratulations on said book, so I reached out and tapped him on the shoulder.
Nice paint job.
Yeah, I don't understand why people don't get it. This is a very simple thing. Everybody was there for it. Everybody heard what was going on. It's not no surprise. So when you're doing something like that and then hiding behind, well, I support all flat earthers and it's a flat earth book, so I'm gonna buy it. I'm also gonna buy Nathan's. I don't know. No integrity.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
So how we looking? You think the next? Well, I asked you last week. I said within the next couple of weeks. What do you think? And you said, yeah, I believe in the next couple of weeks I'd be able to purchase at least an ebook. Still looking that way?
Yeah, I'd imagine I'll get it out this week. Got to read through it one more time. So, like I say, all the heavy editing's been done. There's no chapters set aside that need any more work done to them. It's just going through it and checking, which is what I said last time. But we ended up doing heavy editing work to some of the chapters, maybe 4 of them, 3 or 4 of them, maybe 5. I can't remember exactly how many we did. But we read through it, and for the most part, it was just chapter. Then we'd get to somewhere, a point in the book, and we'd be like, no, that doesn't sound right, change this. Then you go, oh, that's fair enough. Doesn't mean we need to go through the whole book again. But then you'd go through another couple of sentences, make several more changes. Then that would happen for the remainder of a couple of hours, and you're like, well, okay, now we need to set this particular chapter to one side because it's had a lot of work done to it. So you can't really consider that after the last edit you did that it's just going to be perfect. You hope it is, but you need to go through it one more time to check that is the case. So that's where we're at now. Like I say, I think we've got up to chapter 5 on Saturday. And we just read through it. Chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no edits to any of them.
Yeah, there's going to come a point where there's no more editing involved, and that's it. That's the book.
Exactly. Yeah, the only downside to that is there's a little bit of limbo for the show. Waiting for it to be released so that can be the main focus of what we do. But while we're discussing it, obviously I can cross-reference it.
So the title is All Roads Lead to Flat Earth, or is it Measured Flat?
Measured flat.
All roads lead to flat Earth.
Yeah, the latter.
Sounds good.
What can I label today's show? What can the title be? Believe what you like.
Calm before the storm.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, though. Do you think it is the calm before the storm? I think the book's
Well,
going
we're
to cause
talking about heliocentrism mostly, so it is believe what you like.
Yeah, but that's a sentiment that might get discussed, therefore lend credence to the after show's title. But do you think this is the calm before the storm?
Well, so close to releasing. That was the influence anyway.
I didn't make out any of that. Did anybody else understand that?
No.
Or that?
I've turned the tractor off now. Inference was you're almost about to release, and we're just hanging about Taunton until the big drops.
Yeah, I've been saying it for the longest time. It's the calm before the storm. And when the book gets released, start promoting that book, and there's going to be a storm.
I hope so.
Well, it all depends on how you promote it. If you're going to set up appearances on various different podcasts or shows. They even have radio shows that you can get yourself into that I'm sure they would love to have you on. And tell them all about this book, How Earth is Measured Flat.
That's the plan.
What was the name of that one radio show? Truth is Better Than Fiction or something like that?
Stranger Than Fiction.
Yes. That, try to get on that guy's show. Reaches a lot of people.
Didn't know that was a show, but if you send me the name of the show or the YouTube channel, then I'll add it to the list, Neil.
It's a radio show. Let me look into it.
Yeah, same thing applies. Just send me the info and I'll add it. I've done my thumbnail. Leave what you wish. Yeah, be about, I don't know, hour maybe or so from now. My wife will get back from tennis and we'll start working on the book again. Right, I'm going to let this show run for about another quarter of an hour. Hopefully it's not all done in silence.
Come on, Discord, look alive.
Yeah, there's enough of them in there.
Could get you in some Glober discords.
Why?
Just to kind of like debate these guys and promote your book.
I don't know. I've got no desire to go to the unfriendly scumbags that I describe on the show as being the people that want to have my kids taken away because their grown-up 12-year-old rhetoric is being challenged. These people aren't the kind of people that you'd want to associate yourself with.
He still wants to bring that lion out on a leash.
Well, once in a while they gotta get fucking smacked, right? So
Why? They get smacked every day with reality. They're living in it.
Just to change it slightly in terms of your sentiment, right? If they were right, they wouldn't be there, would they? There would be no need. They've got the consensus behind them. So it's kind of telling that we even have anti-globers or anti-globers, anti-flat earthers. They're just somebody that's seen that their beliefs being challenged and they just find themselves offended with that notion. Like, how dare you challenge the consensus? But being firm in the belief that's been laid out for them would mean that there's no need to fight. Why would you need to fight for a globe Earth if that is the case? Like, it just is what it is. Ironically, that's the position we now find ourselves in. So why do I need to fight for an Earth that's being measured flat by everyone anyway? I don't need to fight for that. I can anyway. It's already like that. I don't need to do anything.
it's just it's not really much for the debate. It's more for the smacking the Globers down a little bit, decking them in the face. That one video when you went to Worldwide Debates has over 1,000 views.
Yeah, because that's what people want. We know what they want. Right?
Maybe I'll see that after the book comes out. People will change their tactic because they can win so easily. People are lazy and they want the golden bullet, right? Now, there's people who, up until now, we're describing as having been made redundant because their exemplary heliocentric understanding is suddenly undermined if there's a really simple shortcut to the end of the discussion. But there's going to be people out there that are lazy, do fancy themselves as being an antagonist to the globe rhetoric, and they go, right, so you need to derive sphericity from flat Earth measurements. And then they look at one aspect, I don't know, Polaris-based latitude system, for instance. They go, well, that's all I need. That's how the world is mapped and utilised for navigation. There's no other way around it. So I'll just stick to that and I'll just beat the living daylights out of stupid idiot globe believers with that fact. Why not? Just, toddle into some Discord server that's full of overgrown 12-year-old gammas and betas and go, hey lads, what do you guys think about the fact that Earth's measured flat? Always. Just watch the chaos. Me, I've got no interest in it. Like I say, I've had my 10 years of being an anti-glober.
And go in there, you just hear the same things over and over again. Right? There's nothing new. They have nothing new because it is what it is. Give me any new proof that they supposedly have, and I guarantee they'll try and whistle past the flat Earth measurement to get to that position.
Yeah, I don't think it's about the evidence. I think it's more about the chaos, I guess. Well, Bev went in there yesterday. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Really going to mention these names here?
The community's not that big, man.
I'm not part of that community. We've dealt with them and moved on. Once you say pi equals 2, I'm done with you. I get it. That's what people want to see. They want to see
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Nathan ripping ballers apart.
Pretty much, not gonna lie, that is a majority of the fans.
But why? Is it revenge for their poor treatment of you?
I think that's what people like nowadays. That's what it is. Like, if they want the quote unquote the science behind it, they just go watch YouTube and stuff, right? But they get on Discord to see fights, I guess.
Science. It's nothing to do with science. That's the trick.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows that.
Does he? Let's talk about the science of this geometry problem.
That's something else I cover extensively in the book. How people have been hijacked in terms of their thought processes, suggesting that they've got proof of something when you say science. So that's covered extensively in many of the chapters.
Yeah, most of the time in our world, they're greasing skids to sell a product.
Right.
But why would they have to sell the globe? The whole world. I thought for thousands of years we knew we were on a globe.
It's lies that need to constantly be sold. You only have to sell the truth once.
But what is truth?
Well, in this case, the facts in the matter, in terms of Earth's measurements.
If you know what something is, let's say it's physical, and we measure it, we know what it is. Therefore, it becomes true because now you have a knowledge, correct?
Kinda. I would say it becomes true when you put it into practical application.
Okay, yeah, even better. But that's the one thing I'd say you have in your book that I haven't seen in any other book. They don't really talk about measurements. They can infer it when they talk about distances and things like that, but they never break it down.
Yeah, well, I'm mentioning it every second word in my book.
Oh, maybe that's what it needs for people for the penny to drop. No?
Yeah. I think so. It needs repeating constantly. Every time it's used, every time a flat Earth measurement's required, every time we talk about distance or height or directions, highlighting that it's a flat Earth prerequisite every single time.
Well, look at us, for example. For years, right? We went on debating and debating and debating, and the whole time there was flat Earth everywhere. We just weren't seeing it. They were bringing it to us. As soon as someone said sea level, the only problem with that is then there's nothing to debate, and you sit in silence.
That's okay. Like I say, there's going to be this little calm before the storm. That's fine.
really not going to be a storm. It's going to be a reckoning.
I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know if it's going to be a storm or if it's just going to be a quiet release and just all of the flat earth sites and pages and Facebook pages and stuff like that just go a little quiet.
Well, I think it'll be a reckoning for a lot of people. And a day of reckoning. Now, there will be a storm of globers attacking it. That is a fact.
Yeah, but really, what angle will they come at to attack it? There's not going to be any conspiracy stuff to hang on the arguments.
That's all right. They'll just use freaking geodetic surveying. What do you mean? Everything's good.
Okay, you got me there. I spent a week on a Facebook thread where a guy keeps coming back at me and saying, "You have not replied to my geodetic measurements. The Earth is measured geodetically, and here's all these proofs." And he gives all the laundry list, cut and paste of all the geodetic survey stuff. And I come back and say, well, they do plane surveying, and then they add spherical excess to that. They measure it flat, and then calculate the curve they can't measure. Well, show me the what do you say? The flat Earth measurement methodology. What's the methodology?
They just showed it to you.
No, they just showed the globe Earth measurements, geodetic measurements.
Which are flat.
Show me your flat Earth measurements. Give the methodology. And I say, okay, measure an elevation angle to Polaris, and that's your latitude. Boom. No, that isn't, because blah blah blah. That's
That's when you got to take them to the origin of measurement, the inch.
yeah.
It's not arc.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've been able to say is that the Eratosthenes thing from Cyan to Alexandria, that in the picture you showed there, is that how many miles is that? And you can't say miles or stadia. You got give me the arc degree measurements of that.
There you go.
They skip it. There's nothing they can do except just ignore the flat Earth measurements.
Yeah, that's what Jem gave me. I said, let's talk about the measurements, Jem. He's like, okay. I said, give me your globe measurements. And he sent me 20 pages of geodetic surveying. I said, not flat measurements. I want your globe measurements.
They just basically have to end up saying every measurement you'll have to take will require a horizontal plane of reference. And then they say, don't you know about tangents? Like, tangent plane, so that's a flat, even your tangent plane is a plane. It's a flat, it's a horizontal, it's an imaginary tangent plane, but it's it's still a horizontal reference. Where's the globe? Where's the curve reference?
Yeah, when using this celestial navigation, you got your freaking ground position somewhere in outer space. That makes a lot of sense.
It doesn't even get that far. it's painful to try to explain to them that their tangent plane needs to be the ground position of the star that's 1,000 nautical miles away on the surface that you're measuring, not on the tangent plane that you imagine.
Well, I kind of agree with one deck on that. Tangent. What are you talking about, tangent? This is something done on a piece of paper. There are no tangent planes that I could just go pull out of my boat while I'm lost at sea to try and figure out where I am.
Yeah, I say, where's the tangent plane mirror on a sextant? They've got a horizon, like a horizon mirror they use to sight the horizon, but there's no tangent mirror. Where's that? Dip angle, there's the dip.
No dip when you're on that freaking, your boat goes down and you're stuck on a life raft.
Or if you're in an airplane using a bubble section.
A dip angle's still a flat Earth measurement, you realise. It's a depression angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just explaining that's an angle, and it's measured, it's called height of eye correction. And the height of eye above what? Above sea level. It just boggles their minds.
Yeah, they think you're correcting for the curvature of the Earth, which has nothing to do with it, because there is no curvature of Earth. Why would you have to make a correction then? Oh, God. So you're going to ignore that I just put myself on a life raft where there is no correction needed. So that should end it right there. People should realize right there, right? There should be an awakening right there. But there's not. There's a resistance. Pride.
Nathan, you're right in one aspect that the transition from how you measure or how you just normally do celestial navigation into how you do it mathematically to correct it to a ball to the equatorial plane in the center of the Earth, it really is brilliant. And really, I have a hard time saying that it's a big lie. Even the brilliant people, even, Kepler and Huygens and all them, all they're doing is doing the math that fits their proposition of the Earth being a sphere, so that the math all works. My life is good. I'm out here watching my lands jump around and play in the sun.
Jump around.
They're jumping around, getting those legs of lamb all exercised and ready for dinner.
What we did on Friday. So there's a farm near us called Hilltop Farm. And when they have the orphan lambs, they have more than two. Obviously, they have to hand rear them. So rather than just hand rearing them, they invite the public for a fee to come and sit and hand rear the lambs. Really cute. We must have done it about half a dozen times, maybe more.
So it's so cute.
Yeah, it is.
Unless you've got a bunch of them and you got to do it every day, twice a day
Right.
for some of them.
Well, for
Sure.
you, it's a job.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're at
But we
these
do.
particular farms that we go to, instead of having to just be the person that's hand rearing them, you give members of the public bottles, and they sit with little lambs on them and feed them, and it's really cute.
Very therapeutic.
Yeah,
It's a good thing to do.
my kids love doing it.
Perfect business as well. Instead of paying someone to do it, and paid for other people to do it.
Yeah, so they're getting paid for someone else to hand rear their, orphaned lambs. Right, my wife's back,
Pretty
so
clever.
probably start the books shortly.
So, Len, do you think I was a bit harsh on Chocolate Friday?
I don't think you were harsh. I think you said everything you needed to get off your chest. It's just your disbelief that you needed to see a lot of stuff, and Chocolate needed to hear some shit as well.
Sounds like you're the one second guessing your own actions, Neil.
No second guessing. Stop trying to flip this. There's only one way it's being seen, okay? And I'm sorry, I can't hang around people that can't look at a situation for what it is and call it what it is. Leave your emotions out of it. I've left my emotions out of it. I stuck with the fucking facts. And that's the bottom line. If the facts show differently, Nathan, I would be sitting over there. Unfortunately, they don't.
Well, I dignified you with an answer earlier, right? I felt I was quite expansive in my answer.
What was the quote? Sentiments were expressed here.
Yeah.
And those sentiments require of the person telling the facts to make an assessment of either the need for an apology or to double down and go against it. And I think what Chocolate did was basically just hem and haw around it without giving anything one way or the other. And that in itself is an answer. And after that, you shake the dust off until there's an apology or some kind of acknowledgement that these sentiments are true based on the facts. Then there's not much more you can do.
Yeah, I don't have to be around anybody like that. It's balls in my court now. I don't want to be around people that can't make it, something that's black and white. You're going to make it color. No, this is a black and white issue here. Either one way or the other. There was only one way the whole time. So, like everybody's saying, to me, it's people are dealing with this emotionally because they can't separate the fact that, we're once one happy group. until they fucking became thieves. Now you're no longer one happy group. You say, there's the thief. Stay away from him. Guard your shit. Put the locks on the door because he's a fucking thief. And the worst thief in prison is a sneak thief. Right? When a sneak thief was caught, oh, forget what happened. I don't even want to tell you what happened to them. They'd much rather you just go right up to them and extort them. But a sneak thief, oh, they're looked upon very harshly and dealt with very harshly in prison. And that's what happened. It was a sneak thief. Maybe that's why my balls are twisted so much.
Yeah, I made the example in the pre-show. We'll help you tune the car. It'll be better. It'll earn more money for your family. Where's my car gone? What car? This is a second car. This is a different car. It's got the same VIN number. Nah, this is a second car.
And if you're affiliated with a sneak thief, you're a thief just as with them. So like you really had to watch your P's and Q's.
Right, on that note, though, I am going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.